this afternoon during the fourth technical session on day 4 of the Clean Pacific Roundtable. We will be focusing on the role of civil society in waste management. And we have an exciting lineup this afternoon of incredible civil society leaders that are leading the work on the ground with our communities to inspire change, to inspire new ways of looking at waste management in our respective countries. And they'll be sharing some of the lessons that they have learned along the way in being able to arrive here at the third Clean Pacific Roundtable. Leading us this afternoon, we were supposed to have Brian Machuki from the United Nations Environmental Program based in Nairobi. However, we are thankful for the fact that we have our Wantok, Joshua Sam, who is the Hazardous Waste Management Advisor at SPREP, who will be stepping in to make that first presentation. And that will be followed by Walter Aklea. So after we finish with the first two, then we will open up the floor for questions. And so we welcome the opportunity to receive your questions and your critical thoughts and your feedback as we go into a 10-minute Q&A session. And then we'll continue down the line to be able to listen to our other speakers that will be presenting on their projects. And then we'll continue with the Q&A session. Thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen, for joining us once again. We look forward to this Talanoa session with you this afternoon, and that we will all be able to learn something, be able to contribute something as well, and continue to inspire better relationships amongst all of us that are working across our islands and ocean. Vinakavai Levu. Over to you, Joshua.
Thank you, Dwayne, for the introduction. And it is a pleasure to make this presentation on behalf of our colleague from UNEP, based in Nairobi, who is unable to join us this morning due to the time differences that we have with that particular country. This presentation is about a global youth movement that is focused on an emerging waste issue, which is the plastic issue. And it is on the Plastic Tide Tennis program, or the Young Leaders Plastic Challenge, which is spearheaded and led by UN Environment, as well as the support programs, the Young Leaders Pacific Challenge, as well as Clean Seas program of UNEP. Next slide, please. So basically, the Tide Tenor Challenge comes with a badge, taking after the Scouts and Girl Guides philosophy. It is implemented in 32 countries. You will see on your slide, these countries are located in Africa, Asia, and the Caribbean. Their objectives are to engage youth right across the globe to address plastic pollution issue that is threatening life in the oceans, rivers, and also on land. They also want to educate young people on single-use plastics, give them a bit more awareness as to how to have behavior or practice behavior that will reduce pollution of single-use plastics, and also to motivate youth to alter their behavior, norms around plastic usage, both at home as well as within their communities. Next slide. So just a basic overview of the tide turners. So they started off at a pilot phase. During the pilot phase, they reached up to almost 35,000 participants, mainly in Africa, in Kenya, Uganda, Tanzania, Ghana, and Mauritius. In phase two, they jumped from 35,000 to around 217,000. This time they were spread across 28 countries. And then, they integrated into a digital platform called the Earth Tribe, which now connects almost 57 million scouts worldwide. And then phase three, which is the current phase, it reached 214,000, and then it is expected to jump up to 250,000 by this December, and 32 countries. But if we come back to these slides, next year, we should add 14 Pacific countries, as well as our young people. So that number will definitely be increasing. So Brian's provided a video, which I would like to ask our technical team to play it for our audience this afternoon. Thank you.
Most of our programs actually focus on how do we better the environment. Scouts are exposed to innovations that they didn't know before. When you're talking about plastic recycling, plastics reuse.
The plastic tide turners has helped me become aware of the various ways through which plastic pollutes the environment. In curbing plastic pollution, it involves the 3 R's, that is reusing, recycling, and reducing. It's hard to reduce the use of plastic, but it's very easy to recycle and to reuse. The plastic tide turners was able to help me impact on the environment of the school and the neighborhood at large, because we were able to undertake a public awareness campaign on plastic pollution and on the measures on how to prevent plastic pollution. Also, as the Junior Achievement Club, we took up several cleanups in the school and in the neighborhood, where we collected plastics and called a recycling company who were able to take the bottles. In reusing the plastics, we can make creative pieces of art from plastic materials like plastic straws, plastic papers, plastic bottles.
And these are things that now the Scouts are more aware, and they are keener to continue promoting a culture of making sure that the environment is clean, that they're able to recycle and reuse from a very basic level to a very executive level.
So I'm an optimist. Why? Because I see young people in the street, young people engaging and fighting for a cleaner environment. And here at UNEP, we're particularly pleased with tide turners, working with the youth movement to turn around pollution. This badge, which is now available, is made entirely from recycled materials. So earn this badge and engage communities, engage with schools, set up training programs, and learn how you can influence policy for better and safer environment. That's it. That's what we need to do. Turn the tide, all hands on deck.
Yeah, so basically the tide tennis has three levels of the program. Firstly, is the changing of personal behavior. So the program works with young people to break habits, in particular throwaway habits that we unconsciously develop. And then secondly, they try to inspire communities, raising days at school, organizing cleanups, just bringing, galvanizing communities together so they are inspired to take action. And thirdly, is young people can only do so much. Sometimes policy decisions are out of their reach. So third platform is raising this with company executives as well as politicians, heads of intergovernmental organizations like UNEP, SPREP, so they too can raise that. Next slide, please. All right, so I've asked Brian to share with us in the Pacific some tips on how we can rally our communities, and he's provided 7. We can do better in terms of coordinating activities with organizations, and I know we are doing a lot of these partnerships with government, monitoring waste activities in the community so we can report this to our authorities, as well as getting involved and just being a watchdog for waste management in the community, as well as having a good engagement with media so that our stories are told by media. Next slide. So the Tide Turners movement is working with all of these organizations. You will see these are all very influential organizations around the world that they are working with. And like I said, watch this space. In the next year, we should have the SPREP logo on this page as well, because we will also be working with Tide Turners. Next slide. All right, so phase 3, and then this is where we come in. Tide Turners is looking at making a presence into 32 countries, partnering with 3,500 institutions, doing 50 plus online trainings, having 40 plus partnerships, and all sorts of clubs they plan to set up. And so we should be excited and look forward to this. Because the region, we also have some very good organizations, which some of which you will hear from this afternoon. So we should look forward to this partnership with Tide Turners. Next slide. And I think we can stop here. This particular slide was specific to some champions in Kenya and in the African region. But yeah, just in closing, we will be bringing in Tide Turners to the Pacific. We are currently working with our colleagues in UNEP to recruit a UN volunteer who will be based here in Samoa to start the Tide Turners for the Pacific. Once we get the Islands project up and running, Tide Turners here will be reaching out to all youth organizations around the Pacific, including Scouts, Girl Guides, as well as youth groups from church and communities to partner with you to launch Tide Turners into the Pacific region. So be excited, look forward, and position yourself to partner with us and Tide Turners. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Joshua, for sharing about Tide Turners from the Africa region. It's always quite encouraging to see what is developing in other global sub-regions where they share similar socio-cultural similarities to those of us in the Pacific, and to see how well the young people are activating and are participating in the process of advancing waste management and other innovative solutions in their own countries. Up next, we have Walter Aklea. Walter is from Papua New Guinea, and Walter is the Senior Waste Management Officer that's responsible for the Baruni landfill in Papua New Guinea. Our One Talk will be presenting about the work that he has done there, and he has a bachelor's degree in environmental science from the University of Papua New Guinea, and he has a master's in regional development from the Tokyo University in Japan. Walter, over to you.
Thank you. Can you hear me well?
Yes.
All right, okay, let me begin. Thank you very much for the introduction. As you have mentioned, I will be talking about the landfill waste pickers of Baruni. Next slide, please. So, setting the pace, who are they and what do they do? So, they're basically from an ethnic group from the hinterlands of Port Moresby, and they've been there since the Baruni Dam came into existence till its rehabilitation sometimes back. So they refer to this area as the shopping center. It is their strategy for survival. They're very territorial. They don't like to share their spaces, and they involve with petty crimes, as we understand from waste picking activities worldwide. And of course, they do not like to be directed on what to do or how to go about in waste picking. Next slide, please. So how did we come to work in unison with them, and how did we get to come to mutual understanding and cooperation? We began with constant awareness. We try to keep them informed on what we're doing to improve their working place, especially on the environment and health benefits to them. We participated on a daily activity in interacting with them, talking with them on a one-to-one basis, and we conducted awareness on how we wanted a change to happen and how it could affect them. So that was the settings that we did, and the initial stages that we tried to get them included into being controlled at least. And yes, of course, we face security issues, law and order issues. So we talked on law and order. We did talk on social issues, and we tried to involve them as much as we could so that they could have that sense of belonging and understanding to work with us. And we tried to have monthly formal meetings to discuss and have the says and issues raised so that we could address it formally. Next slide, please. So again, if you work with them, there has to be a line that you have to pull, an imaginary line where you get to respect their activities and you do not need to interrupt them. So what we did was to supervise the activities that were daily activities that were on site, but we tried our best not to interrupt them, and we gave them that space to keep on working and collecting recyclables and reusable materials that would benefit them and let us work in peace with them. So we did have a lot of monitoring activities where we talk to them on a daily basis. We listen to them and we expected them to have their say on whatever daily experience that they had, mostly on which vehicles they were coming in. Some group of waste pickers, they have certain vehicles that they are acquainted with, and that when it comes in, it comes to their space. So we had to negotiate where we had to come to an understanding to have them work in unison and collect as much as they can with every vehicle that we accepted in the landfill site. Next, please. So yes, I did mention about respect and cooperation. So in order to attain that mutual respect and cooperation, we had to listen to them attentively, as we understand that dealing with human being is quite tough, as we have difference in behaviors and attitudes. So we had to show empathy and understand them, and also assist where possible, and relay information to certain authorities and patients that could address them directly and minimize activities that we want to happen. We did mediate, which is constant. We did currently doing mediate with community leaders and those that are affected. We try to settle it at our working site before we escalate them to authorities that will deal with them. And then we also basically show respect that they should deserve to make them feel that they're part of the community that we work with. And to take control of everything, we created a community-based committee where the issues relating to waste picking and any activities regarding disposals were raised to the committee. And it's always been raised to the committee. So it empowers them, and they have that sense of ownership, so they can take control of what's really happening. So we will avoid secret issues at maximum. Next, please. Yeah, so as I did mention in my previous slide, we had to be the neutral person to the people that was in between everything that was happening at Baroni. So what we did was we became the mediators in between contractors. We supervise contractors, we talk to waste pickers, and we try to, as much as we can, introduce each and everyone to each other so they could understand and talk at their level, that we would minimize the risk of social misbehaviors at the landfill site. So whatever we did, we tried our best to involve them, have them actively participate in all activities, to be included. The idea was to have an inclusive participation in the landfill site. Next, please. I think that's all. Working in a landfill is not easy. You have waste pickers to deal with, especially landfill waste pickers. They're quite different from street waste pickers. So in dealing with them, you have to have a sense of respect. There has to be a mutual understanding, and you have to lead without interfering. Think it through. That's all from me.
Thank you very much, Walter, for your presentation on the landfill pickers from Baruni in Papua New Guinea. At this point, we'll open up the floor for questions from all of our participants today. If you have questions or if you have a comment to make regarding the presentation from Africa on the Tide Turners Plastic Challenge, or if you would like to place a comment or question regarding what Walter is doing in Papua New Guinea, please feel free to do so, and we'll take the next 10 minutes to receive your questions, your comments, and your feedback before we move on to the next two speakers.
Dwayne, we have a question from Pramila, if she can ask a question. Thank you.
Hi, I was really interested in the I think Walter's presentation, was it the South Africa one? So I was thinking, how did the community embrace the initiative that you took in terms of getting rid of all the plastic pollution around your area?
Sorry, Walter is from Papua New Guinea. Are you referring
South
to the
African
first
one,
presentation?
the first presenter, yeah, the first presenter, sorry.
Okay, thank you, Pramila. Over to you, Joshua.
Thank you, Pramila, for that question. I guess for the African community, embracing the tight tennis movement wasn't a challenge due to the structure of African families and communities. So once tight tennis were able to get strong support from UNEP and its partners, community buying was very easy, and they were able to strategically partner with Scouts and Girl Guides, which are very strong community organizations, not only in Africa, but around the world. So I guess to answer your question, by being strategic and tapping into strong community groups, you find that buying to whatever initiative that you are trying to do, especially with waste management, will find acceptance very easily. I hope that answers your question. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you, Walter. Thank you. I got your answer, because we had experienced the same thing in Fiji when we were trying to do waste management and clean schools program. So I was wondering how the different communities would embrace the initiatives that is taken by NGOs or the government. Thank you very much.
Before we go on to the next question, Walter, you've been in the ministry and working on waste management in Papua New Guinea now for over 10 years. You know, you spoke a lot about respect and dignity in dealing with the pickers at the Baruni landfill. Could you please briefly share with everyone what were the challenges that the department faced in the earlier days, and then fast forward to 2021, what do those challenges with the waste pickers look like now?
Thank you very much for that. Yes, as you have asked, I will say that the most challenging part was the social aspect to everything, getting the people, especially the waste pickers, to understand that there was going to be a change within the setting, and that their waste picking activity was more like going to be controlled. So they don't like this idea of being controlled. They want to get their own way, at their own pace of time. So that was the challenging part to help them understand that we were not taking away the waste picking activity, but to have it done in a orderly manner. So that was the most, the challenging part of it was that we tried to change the perception, to help them change with the actual project that was going to happen. And they had to like gradually change with time until today. So yeah, I think the challenging part was that, to help them change mentally with us.
Okay. Walter, we have a question from Siosi from Samoa, who is asking, how do you monitor and handle waste pickers who do not comply with the landfill rules, especially on occupational health and safety and personal protective gear? He says that he sees photos on your slides that most of them are not wearing PPEs and are exposed to rubbish and hazardous materials. How do you deal with this in the landfill?
Thank you very much for that. That is a very challenging question, I should say. Like in our setting here, if we have the waste picking activity formalized, have them registered to work at cooperatives, register them every day as they come in and go out, then we will have the total control over everything that is happening there. Unfortunately for our setting here at Baruni, we don't have a perimeter fence around the landfill site, and people come in and go out used to. And so we do not have total control over it. So as I mentioned earlier, we try to talk to them on a daily basis and to respect them, allow them to pick as much as they can what they want to and address it at our level. We escalate issues to the next level. It's quite challenging as you can see in the pictures that we do not have and we do not practice all on site. We try as much as we can to do basics. Did I answer that correctly?
Yes, you did. Thank you, Walter. It's always going to be a challenge when we're dealing with loose collectives within our communities. And we find some solutions that work today might not work tomorrow. And then a few weeks down the road, we revisit those rules again. And even though there are breaks in the rules, we always have the opportunity to come back and to meet with the different collectives and to figure out a way to strengthen it once again.
We need to change every day with them. It's changing every day, so we got to change and adapt to every day the challenge that we face. That's how you go out with things, especially working in a landfill.
Yep. We have a question from Holly, and it's for you, Walter. Holly is asking, how much did the economic exchange system used by the waste pickers have to change for them to accept your health and safety improvements? Was there a financial loss to the waste pickers? Did they feel that they incurred a financial loss? And how did the department manage this? And what was your involvement like?
Thank you. That's a very interesting question too. Okay, as I mentioned earlier, if only we did formally we did what is register them to work in cooperatives or organizations, we would see some changes that will be registered. Unfortunately, what we did was just informal, up to date. But as much as we could, we tried to control things. So we work on a win-win basis. They don't lose too much, but they abide with what we do. At the moment, I should say, roughly on an estimation basis, they haven't lost anything. They're still winning. So, which means that since we've rehabilitated the site is much more acceptable than before. So we have a lot of people coming in and going out. Waste pickers picking on site has increased the total number on a daily basis. So there's a big benefit for them out there.
Okay. Do we have any more questions or comments that people would like to pose for themselves, either in the chat, or if you'd like to unmute and ask your question directly to Walter or to Joshua, please feel free to do so now before we move on to our next two presenters. Thank you, Pramila. Pramila, which organization are you from?
Darwin, I think you have forgotten me. I'm from Nandi Town Council.
Thank you, Pramila. That's why I was asking. I wanted to make sure that this is the same Pramila from Nandi.
Oh, yeah, thank you.
Thank you. Leanne says in the chat that she's looking forward to the Tide Turners launch in the Pacific, and that there are youth organizations that are involved in waste management in Samoa, but without any support, they can only do so much. With the support provided by Tide Turners program, they will be able to achieve a lot more. Thank you, Leanne, for that comment. I believe that that is quite accurate in that what we can do as a collective is look at ways in which we can provide a framework and a common place for our young people to be able to come together, to access resources and material, to be able to go back into their communities, into their islands, and to make sure that they're adequately supported in being able to run their own programs and figure out solutions that work for them. We have a presentation that will be coming up shortly that's been pre-recorded by Florence Bule, and she will be talking about community initiatives in Vanuatu and what they have been doing as an organization to be able to support communities better. And then followed by that, we will be speaking with Georgina Bonin, who will present after that video is being played of Florence. So please feel free to keep your questions coming, your comments coming. We welcome any feedback that you have, and we look forward to continuing to learn from each other over this technical session 4. Thank you very much, and welcome back to the next portion of technical session 4, which is focusing on civil societies and what we're doing in the waste management space. As we heard earlier from Joshua regarding the Tide Turner's Plastic Challenge in the Africas region, followed by Walter's presentation on what he's doing at the Baruni landfill in Papua New Guinea for the past decade. And now we will switch over to Vanuatu, where we will hear from Florence Bule on the Waste Not, Want Not project in Vanuatu and what she's doing. Thank you.
First of all, I would like to take this opportunity to thank the organizing team for allowing me to be part of this forum. Again, my name is Florence Bule, and I am the Climate Resilience Portfolio Manager in World Vision Vanuatu. So today I will be presenting to you one of the waste management projects that was implemented by World Vision for the past 4 years. This project was called the Vanuatu Waste Not Want Not project. It has started in July 2017 and ended in June 2021, that is earlier this year. This project was located in 2 different urban areas here in Vanuatu. That is Port Vila and Luganville. This project is also funded by the Australian government. The expected beneficiary was to at least reach 3,275 direct beneficiaries and 2,000 indirect beneficiaries. However, at the end of this project, we managed to reach 2,663 direct beneficiaries and 10,652 indirect beneficiaries. On your screen, you will see the different communities that we work with and its population. So in Port Vila, we work with 3 urban communities, Anamburu community, Olen community, Etas community. And in Luganville, we work with Shapi community, Lavuswatu community, Pepsi community, Solwe community, and Mango community. The goal for this project was to work with urban and peri-urban communities in Port Vila and Luganville experience increased economic resilience and health through improved waste management practices and business opportunities. This project has 3 different outcomes. Outcome 1 is for the 8 urban communities have increased sustain economic resilience. Outcome 2, urban communities value the importance of the best waste or good waste management practices and healthy lifestyle. Outcome 3, for the first and second year, stakeholders and partners collaborate to strengthen capacity for waste management in Vanuatu. Also, in the urban or in year 3 and 4, we work with the different youths to support them, empower them to become agent of change in their respective communities. So throughout the life of the project, we have a few different key partners that we worked with or we work alongside with. Of course, the Australian government, who is the donor, is one of our key partner. Vanuatu Environmental Science Society is another key partner that World Vision was so fortunate to work with them to facilitate the Salem Plastic event earlier this year. Port Vila and Luganville Municipality was also one of the main key partners that we work with throughout the life of this project. Department of Environment was also one of them. Department of Agriculture, Recycle Corp, and ANZ Bank. I will now be talking about some of the project highlights. So for this project highlights, we have managed to provide an avenue for people to increase their livelihood through savings training. We've facilitated savings training throughout or for the past 4 years and managed to establish 28 savings group. Not only that, we provide trainings, waste management trainings, nutrition awareness, and business training. Another highlight was that we work with this group of young people here in Vanuatu or in Port Vila. These youths were from the Oilen community, and these youths formed a small group of youths that are able to do small works such as keeping the environment clean in their community. And from there, we supported them with small grant in form of materials. We purchased a few rubbish collection materials that these youths can use to strengthen their business. Therefore, not only that, these youths were so fortunate to be part of this Fest One event and Christmas in the Park event. They've signed a contract with these two event organizers, and we're able to set up different waste stations in the park and attend to the waste station. And not only that, provide information to event attendees. Another highlight was the youths in Luganville. These youths were part of this program, the Nakamalbong Youth Club program, where this Nakamalbong Youth program provides a space or safe space for them to share their concerns, their ideas, to be agent of change in their community. So one of the idea or the in-service learning that they've done was the street cleaning in Luganville. Another highlight was the Seven Salwara and or Salem Plastic event. This event was a buyback event where participants around Port Vila were invited to collect plastic bottles in exchange for 10 batu, approximately 0.10 Australian dollar in Port Vila. The event was run as a trial pilot test to support the Recycling Association with data for future buyback scheme. In just 3.5 days, nearly 1.4 bottles were counted, with over 10 million Vatu, approximately 7,000 Australian dollars being paid out to 892 communities members in Port Vila. Should you wish to know more about this event, you can check out the YouTube Silent Plastic Pangsem Solwara Campaign 2021, and you can get more information about this event. Some of the lessons learned we've drawn from the project was that the government and the private sectors and NGOs have been tackling these management issues in solos. However, with joint partnership with organizations of the same goal, we can drive and we can continue to promote behavioral change around waste management. There is also poor governance within the urban communities that we worked with due to mixed island people living in the same area, which this result in poor community governance structure. However, there is a good governing structure within the same island community and communities with existing churches. From there, we can tap into this structure to implement this project. Lesson learned, there are greater waste management issues in urban areas caused by overpopulation, for migration for employment. Best waste management behavior and practice is the key for urban drift education. Another way forward is for us to continue with the waste management, health, hygiene, and sanitation best practice awareness during the event. Not only that, to continue to develop more information, education, and communication materials, of course, biodegradable, and merchandised, produced, and distribute to waste management and campaigns. This is all from me. Otherwise, thank you very much for allowing me to be part of this forum. Should you have any questions, to contact me through email at florence_pule@wvi.org. Again, thank you to the organizing team for allowing me to be part of this forum. Yeah, should you wish to know more, send me an email and I can respond to you anytime this month. Otherwise, thank you, Tomas.
Thank you, Tomas, for Florence from Vanuatu, who shared about the Waste Not, Want Not project in Vanuatu. Ladies and gentlemen, without further ado, we will go on to the next pre-recorded session, which will be provided by Georgina Bonin, who has over 3 decades of experience in the humanitarian disaster risk management space in Samoa, who will be talking about faith-based approaches to waste management. In a lot of academic writings in the region and around the world, they refer to the 3-legged stool in being able to address behavioral change, one being the government, the second being our communities, and the third being our faith. And so it is appropriate that we now turn to Samoa.
Hello for everybody. Taking care of our common home, Earth, is foremost a duty of every human being on the planet. So has the Catholic Church, through our Pope Francis, brought light on the sorry state of the world in terms of pollution, abuse of natural resources, and the environment, and especially through the unnecessary wastage of energy, water, food, and many other resources from God, the Creator. A throwaway culture in the 21st century has reached epic proportions, and who suffers the most? The millions of poor and the have-nots in every society. Erroneously believing in the limitless supply of nature's bounty, people have forgotten to care for it and replenish it to the levels of even forgetting to care for one another. Technological solutions cover up a lot of that wastage and conveniently offers alternative options for people, even in their homes, to dispose of things so easily, things that really should not be thrown away. As advocated in Laudato Si, Pope Francis's encyclical of May 2015, the world needs a global consensus and strong national consortiums of governments and civil societies to control the levels of human wastage and their unfettered desires to control nature, and yet have not figured out how to give back to nature and heal it from all the ill that has been thrown at it. An ecological revolution is needed to reverse the unhealthy trends in our planet and rekindle in every human being, especially the powerful elites, the spirit to care for one another better and realize that the planet was and is a gift from God to us for all generations, past, present, and future. And it is our bound duty to care for one another, especially the poor and vulnerable. So what is Caritas? Inspired by Catholic faith, Caritas is the helping hand of the Church, reaching out to the poor, vulnerable, and excluded, regardless of race or religion, to build a world based on justice and fraternal love. Its mission, Caritas Internationalis, reflects the social mission and core values of the Catholic Church. We believe in dignity, solidarity, and stewardship on behalf of the world's most vulnerable people. Caritas in Samoa was founded in February 2008 and became a full-fledged member of Caritas Internationalis in 2011. With a population of just over 200,000, Caritas Samoa works in Samoa. Caritas Samoa works in close partnership with Caritas agencies, international relief organizations, as well as the Samoan government's National Disaster Management Office to aid and training where needed. Apart from its work in emergency response, Caritas Samoa also aids low-income families by providing shelter, food and clothing, promotes capacity building initiatives for women, and helps with the improvement of rural water supplies. Caritas Samoa collaborates with the Caritas Network to develop and implement the activities such as the US-based Catholic Relief Services, Caritas Oceania, and Caritas Australia, and Caritas Aotearoa in New Zealand. Ecological culture cannot be reduced to a series of urgent and partial responses to the immediate problems of pollution, environmental decay, and the depletion of natural resources. There needs to be a distinctive way of looking at things, a way of thinking, policies, an educational program, a lifestyle, and a spirituality which together generates resistance to the assault of the technocratic paradigm. Otherwise, even the best ecological initiatives can find themselves caught up in the same globalized logic to seek only a technical remedy to each environmental problem, and which comes up to a separate, which comes up to separate what it is really interconnected and to mask the true and deepest problems of the global systems. We are part of nature, included in it, and thus in constant interaction with it. Recognizing the reasons why a given area is polluted requires a study of the workings of that society, its economy, its behavior patterns, and the way it grasps reality. Given the scale of change, it is no longer possible to find a specific, discrete answer for each part of the problem. It is essential to seek comprehensive solutions which consider the interactions within natural systems themselves and with social systems. We are faced with two separate crises, one environmental and the other social, but rather with one complex crisis which is both social and environmental. Strategies for a solution demand an integrated approach to combating poverty, restoring dignity to the excluded, and at the same time protecting nature. So what is Caritas Samoa doing to control waste in Samoa and pollution? Caritas works through its communities and volunteers to create spaces to generate conversations, health and well-being for the poor, and it has developed projects and programs focusing on hygiene and sanitation at household levels. Starting with just a few, Caritas parishes are now being expanded throughout the diocese, the Archdiocese of Samoa, so that each parish becomes more and more involved in the work of Caritas to care for the poor and their community environments. This includes management of their generational waste and natural waste of disposal, for example, composting. With regard to waste management, Caritas has built up a consortium of key NGOs like the Red Cross Society, Adventist Disaster Relief Agency, or ADRA, and St. Vincent de Paul Society to tackle poverty in a holistic manner, starting with putting a roof over the heads of so many poor people in makeshift and extremely unsafe housing in Samoa. The Safe Village Settlements Pilot Project aims to provide safe and resilient housing for the poor, utilizing disused shipping containers in the country. Predominantly a net importer of goods, Samoa has many shipping containers scattered around the country due to the high cost of returning empty containers. The economic downturn experienced due to the prolonged COVID-19 state of emergency over the last 18 months has exacerbated this situation with dramatic negative impacts in every sector, but in particular tourism and manufacturing. There are many more empty containers found lying around, and yet their resilience to natural disasters such as tropical cyclones, earthquakes, fires, and so on are well documented and utilized throughout the world. Caritas works through its communities and volunteers to create spaces to generate those conversations about conservation, health, and well-being for the poor, and has developed projects and programs focusing on hygiene, sanitation, and household levels. The Safe Village Settlements Pilot Project responds to a right of every person in the world to adequate housing, especially the poor and vulnerable. It is in part financially backed by the government of Samoa and other interested development partners, and is about to build resilient homes for poor people from disused shipping containers. Using a programmatic approach, recipients of container homes under the SVSPP enter into a 5-year relationship with the program to lift them out of poverty. The use of the containers for this purpose removes the burden on the environment in terms of waste management and pollution. The construction of homes with shipping containers takes only a shorter time to build, but is also known to generate less carbon dioxide emissions during the build from standard housing of wood and concrete. The startup of social enterprises amongst unemployed youth using recycled glass is also a pipeline initiative of Caritas, which we hope to commence in the new year. We thank SPREP for the invitation to share our experience with this Clean Pacific Roundtable of Taitele Manuelaso.
Thank you very much for those pre-recorded presentations by Florence of Vanuatu and Georgina of Samoa regarding their civil society approaches to working with different communities in their countries to be able to advance waste management systems. At this stage, I would like to invite the next speaker, who is Camden Hewitt, to present on what the NGO Sustainable Coastlines is doing in our region. And then we will continue to the next presenter before we break into the question and answer session.
Thank you, and I just want to acknowledge all the attendees and the participants on this panel for your time and your energy into these really, really important conversations. We need to do more and do better and do that more quickly to solve these problems that we have in waste around the Pacific. So I'm here to talk today about some of the strategies that Sustainable Coastlines, a charity that I co-founded in 2009 in Aotearoa, New Zealand, and the strategies that we use to engage communities. Our experience has really been not just in Aotearoa, New Zealand, but in working with communities around the Pacific on marine litter cleanup, on education, and on capacity development. So far, we've worked in 11 different countries and territories Pacific-wide, and have established organizations in Hawaii as well as in Papua New Guinea as well. At this time, we have a team on a program called Litter Intelligence, which is a litter monitoring program around New Zealand, and they are engaging with over 250 different communities at beaches around New Zealand, as well as 7 different coastal sites that are piloting for the program around Samoa, Tonga, and Wallis and Futuna. And our core mission is really to support communities wherever we work to prevent litter and to restore waterways. So, that for a bit of context there, that's the learnings that we've taken from that work over the last 13 years or so have allowed us to develop some strategies which we've found effective for engaging with communities. And that's not just in waste prevention, but across freshwater restoration projects and education programs as well. And I just want to acknowledge that it's a journey, and that even after the last decade or so of working with communities, I feel that myself and our team, we have 20 staff, we learn something new every single week. And I'm sure that everyone listening can relate to that you learn something new about how to engage with communities every time you go in, because communities are such dynamic places. So the way that we frame our community engagement strategy, there's an introduction on this page, and I'm going to talk through each of those with some examples. And it's not just one element, it's all of these together that we find are really, really important. So firstly, live by your values. We found that it's been really, really important, particularly as we've grown as an organization, to define our organizational values. And that means not just writing them down, but making sure that all team members are on board with them and live them and breathe them throughout their community engagement. So throughout our time we spend on the ground with communities, we're making sure that we're respecting Indigenous wisdom. We're striving for brilliance, so we're delivering quality work that matters to communities. We're working together because together is better. And we have a value called the high five effect, which really speaks to having fun. And I'm going to bring that up a bit later because it's so important. And so it takes time to establish those values and make sure that your team adheres to them and lives and breathes those. And the important part of that is establishing a culture internally of constant improvement. We at Sustainable Coastlines have a monthly award system with our team, which recognizes team members that have really shown and demonstrated those values in their engagements with communities. And that's one way among many other ways of establishing that focus on values. Secondly, and really, really importantly, focus on relationships. So for that, it's relationships first and then partnerships. I would imagine most people in this room have experienced a time when they've had a memorandum of understanding, an MOU sent through to them from an organization that they just don't know very well, that they don't have a really, really strong relationship with. And so it's about establishing relationships first and then developing those partnerships. And that's what's really important, is knowing groups, spending time on the ground with them, and then entering into long-term agreements or long-term projects and programs. But it can't be done the other way around, or perhaps it shouldn't be done the other way around. And those relationships, they don't just extend to the community group sector and civil society, they extend across all sectors. Those relationships need to be with businesses like a sponsor of ours, ANZ. We develop relationships not just with them in a financial context, but with their staff, so that they turn up to our planting events, our cleanup events. They engage really strongly. We have sort of family-like relationships with a lot of groups like that. Those include church groups, it includes schools, it includes iwi hapu or local Indigenous groups. And they're all important members of the community, and relationships across all sectors are really, really important before there can be partnerships and projects that focus on partnerships. Listen, ask, and learn. Local communities and people from local places hold so much wisdom about the places they live in. They know their own backyard. They deeply understand their community. They deeply understand the problems within their own environments. Elders, particularly, kaumatua is a term in Te Reo Māori for elders that are holders of ancient wisdom about a place. And it's so important to sit with them, to listen to them, to ask questions. What do they want? What do they need? What's their vision? And then how can that inform the collaborative work that you do? Cups of tea and biscuits are absolutely critical. Early on in Sustainable Coastlines, I remember speaking with a kaumatua elder, and she said to me, "Boy, you better up your tea and biscuit budget or you're not working with us." And it was about sitting down and taking the time to drink a cup of tea, have a couple of biscuits, and ask questions to learn from that intense local wisdom and knowledge, and to really understand what the issues were within that community, to be able to work together to solve them. And on that note, collaboration is so important. There's a lot of different ways that people see collaboration. I think collaboration can be a term that's thrown around a little bit loosely, and collaboration needs to be fit for purpose. Sometimes, you know, I call these sort of levels. Level 1 might be telling, and that's, here's what we're doing. That might be important in some contexts, but the further up these steps you go, the more deep the level of collaboration. And probably the more you'll get out of that collaboration, and the more the environment that you're trying to serve will benefit from that collaboration. So selling might be, hey, we've got this great project, we'd love for you to get involved. Testing, the next step up, might be, hey, we've got this great project, what do you think about it? You know, how can we improve it? Would love your feedback. Consulting is another step up, and that might be, what's your vision? You know, we're listening to you. We'll take that into account when we're planning and designing our work. But the gold standard, the top, and where we should really aim to be, particularly with any long-term projects, is co-creating. So it's sitting down together before anything's designed and saying, together, let's create the vision for the future that we all want. And that's much more powerful than saying, hey, here's what we're doing, back at step 1. A project that we worked with was building our office, and it just riffs back to the previous presenter talking about shipping containers, where in Sustainable Coastlines HQ, we've built our office out of 3 shipping containers. And that was a project that we sat down right at the beginning, and we worked on a co-design process with mana whenua, local iwi and hapa groups here in Aotearoa. Over 80 different companies and over 2,000 people were involved, from prisoners within the system and with volunteers working at Working Bees to actually build this building. But right from the start, it was co-design with the community that it aimed to serve. And so that became a real success story, and is still there to this day. Next is empowering local leaders. And at Sustainable Coastlines, one of the things we've always said is we're here to put ourselves out of a job. You know, key community leaders, and particularly locals, they know the community around them so well, and they're the ones that are going to connect with the community. They're going to connect the community to your project. They're going to ensure that the projects, if they're really robust, are going to be sustained long term. And one beautiful example we have of that is working with this man, Shannon Tahuya. He's a wonderful man who recently won New Zealander of the Year Local Hero Award for his work. And we worked with him back in 2015 to understand his and his community's local vision for the Puniu River. And from that, we worked with him to create a trust, the Puniu River Care Trust, that now has employed 47 local people to plant 1.2 million trees alongside that river to restore it. And so that would not have happened without that empowering of that local connection leader in the community that he aimed to serve. And finally, acknowledge and celebrate. And it has to be fun. Our focus at Sustainable Coastlines, as I mentioned, one of our values is the high five effect. The activities and events that we're coordinating within community, they focus on fun. And they also aim to acknowledge those who are participating and those who are those local leaders. So whether it be acknowledging sponsors and supporters through logo placement along the collateral for your project, or acknowledging the community groups like we do with our litter intelligence program, who submit data to a monitoring program, you know, all the way through to taking those community solutions and highlighting them and communicating those and talking about the work that that community does. And we have a website platform where we do that through our litter intelligence program that aims to share that knowledge and share those successes and celebrate those successes. And finally, as I've mentioned, it needs to be fun. The work that we do, there's a sense in the community often around eco-anxiety that there's so many problems we need to solve that it can feel all a little bit too hard. But when we can bring people together in the outdoors to engage in these problems with really, really positive solutions, we bring food, we bring music, and we have a great time. people are much more likely to engage with that program again and again and again, simply because it makes them feel good and they're doing something positive. So I'll leave it at that. I want to thank and acknowledge everyone here for their time and acknowledge Sprek for the invitation to present. I look forward to the conversation. Kia ora.
Thank you very much, Camden, for your presentation. Ladies and gentlemen, Camden is the co-founder and program director for Sustainable Oceans. And next up, we have Randy Solomon. Ladies and gentlemen, Randy Solomon is an innovator, and she is someone that has taken the initiative to turn waste into useful products in her home country. And she is an environmental health officer that's based in Gizo in the Solomon Islands. Ladies and gentlemen, she is also the founder and chairwoman of Plastic Wise Gizo, an initiative to educate communities on waste management that also turns plastic waste into colorful handicrafts. And I've seen a bit of her work and the work that they continue to do in the Solomons on Twitter. And it's very good to be able to see you in person this afternoon and to hear you share your story of what's happening in the Solomon Islands. Over to you, Randy.
Thank you very much, everybody. And firstly, I'd like to thank the Sprek and the organizers and speakers, especially the previous speakers and the organizers for this wonderful time. And I think it's the first time that Plastic Wise will come around and join this such conference, and I'm very happy to be part of it. And this will really help us moving forward with what with our work currently in the Solomon Islands. So yes, I will be presenting Plastic Wise, going through few PowerPoint presentations, and then will be followed by a clip that I've sent to just showcase some of the successful work that we have done here in Gizo and Solomon Islands. Thank you. Can we have the next PowerPoint? Yes, Plastic Wise Gizo was established 5 years ago in 2017, and we are just 5 years working. It's a local initiative that is being taken, especially within a small town in the Solomon Islands, and we are registered as Plastic Wise Gizo. It's a network that we work with our volunteers from Australia, especially getting the name. So if you see Plastic Wise Network in Australia, I think Plastic Wise Gizo is one of the first international network that that Plastic Wise Australia registered within the region. And if you see the Plastic Wise Network and the second name Gizo, it's the location. So we are in Gizo, in the Solomon Islands. And our vision is the promotion of the 3 R's, especially reducing, reusing, and recycle. And I think for the reuse and the reduce and the reuse, it's compliance within our society is okay, but a major challenge is the recycling part, the 3rd R, which we know like in terms of development, most at this time, we are importing goods from outside of Solomon Islands. So I think this is where it all begins in coming up with the initiative. And most of the members are women, and we have almost 120 members, and more than 20 are men, and the rest are women. So it's like women taking the initiative in implementing the 3 R's initiative in Solomon Islands. Thank you. Can we have the next slide? Yes, and mostly for the strategy for engagement, especially in trying to implement waste management programs in the Solomon Islands. I think what the group do is mostly the promotion of recycled handcrafts. If you can see, some of the handcrafts are being displayed, and like in the Solomon Island, I think Gizo is a tourist destination, and with the current status of waste, especially plastics and aluminum cans and other waste that's not easy to do recycling, I think the only way forward for us to clean our environment, especially the land and the sea, is turning this trash into creative recycled crafts. And when you see them completed, it's like, you know, it's not made here in the Solomon Islands. So I think this is one of the strategy, promotion of recycled craft, handmade crafts. And the other one here is creating opportunities to allow accessibility to market outlets through international calendar events. For example, we have the events in a year calendar, like International Women's Day. We have the International Environment Day. We have the International Rural Women's Day and other World Teachers Day. And these are the opportunities that we allow our women to be engaged in trying to create market outlets and see how they can sell their products so that they can earn a living at the end of the day. And it's like, I think one of the major area that, you know, it puts us together within our association. It's like most of our women are not working in formal industry. They're just looking after the parents or raising their family, work. And when you allow such opportunities for them to be engaged, and especially making this this kind of industry, it allows them to get a bit of financial income to support them. And I think this really helps them and motivates them. Can we go on to the next slide? And I think one of the strategies under the engagement component,
une des stratégies pour motiver, engager,
women's empowerment and leadership,
c'est de reconnaître l'autonomisation des femmes et leur capacité à diriger.
I'm sorry, we have a quick technical issue. Randy, I'm so sorry.
Il y a un petit problème technique.
Celine, I'm going to mute you for a moment, and we're going to go ahead and update the interpretation booth.
Thank you.
Okay, Randy, please go ahead. I'm so sorry for the disruption.
Thank you. The other
l'autre
engagement strategy is recognizing women's empowerment and leadership capacity. With the work that we are doing here in Solomon Islands, I think being in a society that women are limited in terms of decision making, I think this contributes much to whatever the policy that we want to implement. So,
et il s'agit de savoir quels sont les
one of the engagement strategy that we engage is, if we recognize women's empowerment and leadership capacity, it allows sustainability in whatever the policies that we will be implementing. The next slide, please. We do like in the Solomon Islands, Plastic Waste Gizo engages most as part of their engagement in the communities, and doing the work is we work with schools, we do awareness in schools, we conduct surveys in schools, and as you can see here, most of these crafts are made out of plastics, single-use plastics, plastics that you know, we bought food from the shop and other plastics. But if you can see here, school children enjoying seeing this craft, and they have a lot of interest in there. And that is one of the most exciting work within our association, is the enthusiasm that the young people have on these crafts. Next slide, please. Also, one of the areas that Plastic Wise Gizo has been engaged, especially in rallying community, is the churches. I think within the Solomon Islands, I think churches play a crucial role in disseminating informations. And also there is a culture within the churches that, you know, there you can see that volunteerism is one of the strengths. And one of the successful stories of Plastic Wise Gizo is, it is the church women's group that they are the ones that our strength is based on them, because they have their very strong existing network that extends to the families, to the communities. So churches is a very important stakeholder, especially in which Plastic Wise Gizo relies most of for doing the programs, church awareness, church groups programs, and especially like if we have these events within our town in Gizo, it is these women that plays a very important crucial role. Thank you. Next PowerPoint. Yes, the communities within our country, especially here in the Solomon Islands and in Giz Western Province, we see that, you know, they know more about climate changes and all this sea level rise, but it's through the education awareness that we do within the communities that we can pass on the informations, especially with working to look after waste, and especially what the waste management does to our communities. Through community engagement, this is one of the very important strategy that we engage, and especially the successful stories of Plastic Wise Gizo and our recognitions in the country and also in the region. It is through our strong networks with the schools, the churches, and the communities, especially in the rural areas. And also would like to make some highlights here, especially with our communities in the rural area. Maybe in terms of information sharing and in terms of understanding the policies, especially, and connecting them up to the government. I think this is a really challenge because of our remoteness. Maybe because we come from, you know, we are from the islands, and maybe the logistics and the geographical settings within our communities in Solomon Island is a challenge. So we need to develop a stronger and a very conducive strategies to link down to the communities, because maybe they are the very people that, you know, if they're not aware of our national policies, the regional policies, and the international policies, this is where the challenge will be there, because they won't care about the ocean, they won't care about the land, and especially in our current status that most of our food and our other things like the e-waste and also the chemical waste and other waste that were introduced into the country, we won't have a place to throw them and get rid of. It has to be end up in the sea, ocean, or on our land. Thank you. The next presentation. So maybe this is one of the, as I have mentioned, Plastic Wise has just started 5 years ago, and because it is a local initiative that the women of Gizo had started, where we don't have much support from the government. We don't have much support from stakeholders. So we are working on a strategic plan 2021 to 2030, in which we had an external consultant that is helping us, and we are just about to review the strategy and have it endorsed. So in this strategic plan, we will be appealing to donor partners and supporters to help us see how we can implement more of this, our plans and activities. And in terms of like supporting Plastic Wise Gizo now, we are currently having 2 partnerships with Positive Change for Marine Life. We have a 1-year partnership program, and we have two staffs that are working with Positive Change for Marine Life, and it should be ending March next year. And also another partnership program with Strong in Business Solomon Islands. And this is more focusing on income generating objective. And we will be exporting aluminum cans and PET bottles. And we are in the process now, but then it's a 1-year time frame. So we'll be finishing off in June next year. And for the Positive Change for Marine Life, they are working on improving the aim is to work on improving the current solid waste management program in our little town here in Gizo. So with those informations that I have just presented on my slides, I think we are looking forward to explore more, and we are learning from other like speakers, especially with the current program on the Clean Pacific, and especially implementing the Clean Pacific Strategy 2016-2025. We are looking forward to work more with other stakeholders in the region, and especially internationally. So maybe this is where I will stop here, but I think the whole concept in sustaining the work of Plastic Wise and understanding the role of the work that Plastic Wise has done is it's more on bringing visibility to women's leadership. I think we understand that women plays a crucial role in development within our country, and if we want to see changes, I think it's through working with women and bringing visibility in their leadership and investing in women and the young people. So this is where our strategy in combating waste that we are working on within the Solomon Islands. So I'll stop from here, and then I would like to introduce a short clip on some of the products, some of the work that women do within Solomon Islands within the last 5 years. And if we can just have the clip on, and maybe people will have a look at what we're doing, because as I have mentioned, we are promoting the 3R initiative. The reduce part it's okay, we are working on it. The reuse part, it's okay with us. It is the recycling aspect that we are really struggling with, and maybe we'll look at the clip and we'll see. Thank you.
Plastiknya no ravis ya. Ya mana something in is very useful ya. Ting we keep him every plastic. We walk about la road milk him the plastic we pick him.
Plastic wise group ya was me interested in handcraft.
Yeah.
Me bara make any kind something out of plastic.
Mom start collecting every single thing around the house ya. No try to be creative how na ba pala reduce mo to waste too.
And thank you everyone for watching and hope you enjoyed some of our products. We are here, you can communicate and we can establish relations. Thank you everyone.
Thank you very much, Randy, for that inspiring presentation. And I'd just like to give you a round of applause for the work that you're doing back home in the Solomon Islands. From the comments that's coming through, I believe everyone is so inspired and motivated by the work that you're doing. Ladies and gentlemen, that brings us to the conclusion of the technical session 4 on civil society solutions for waste management. And at this time, I'd like to open up the floor to ask any of you participants, if you have questions or if you have remarks that you would like to make regarding any of the presentations this afternoon, that we will open up the next 15 minutes for discussion before we close off this session. Now we have a question from Bradley, and it's for Randy. Randy, do you have any advice to country representatives about how to either engage with existing groups or even look to create their own community groups focused on waste activism?
I think we have started networking with communities within our settings here in the Solomon Islands. We conduct community awareness on environment education and joining other stakeholders, especially when they organize programs. For example, we travel to other islands and do community awareness on trying to train them how to do recycle crafts. And our future plan is how we can continue to upscale the network that we have established, especially with our communities. And so far we have done almost more than 10 awareness with the communities, and this is with the support of WWF Pacific, because I think their country office they have a branch and a country office in Giza. So we sign up contracts with them to do the community awareness, especially where there are their project sites on marine conservations and economic program for the targeted marine areas. So I think I'm giving this information, am I answering the question?
Thank you very much. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you very much for attending the third Clean Pacific Roundtable Technical Session 4 that's focused on civil society solutions. We especially extend a big thank you to all of our presenters for dedicating their time and their energy to being able to consolidate a presentation that we can all enjoy and understand the different facets of how you continue to innovate in this space, in your own islands. And we look forward to learning from you, learning with you, and continuing to look at how we continue to harness the power of our communities, our women's groups, and our youth in being able to advance solutions that are region specific and that can work well for us.